Great. So yeah, my name is Brian Fath. I mentioned that I was in Baltimore at the moment. I'm a professor actually at Towson University, and I have a joint appointment with YSSP. So I go there during the summer, and I do research, and I work with the YSSP and so on. Also on this call, we have Kirsten Glenn, who is in Luxembourg in Austria, and she is on the YSSP team. And we have two former YSSPers that will give a little bit of talk on their experience in terms of research and what to expect on that. So Bindu from China and Meirav from Haifa. Are you in Haifa at the moment, Meirav? Yeah, so there's the picture of YSSP. You've probably seen the website already, but we do live and work in a beautiful castle right outside of Vienna, Austria. So that's always one of the attractive highlights as well, too. So yeah, there's just the brief schedule, lot, but what we have in our plan. I'll give an overview of the program and some advice on preparing your proposal, and then we'll hear the two alumni experience. Of course, there's time for questions. I don't know if any of the member organization representatives are here, but if so, we'll have a chance to hear from them. And then Kirsten will talk about how do you actually get into the application portal and next steps. MO, just so you know, member organizations, YSSP has a funding structure that there's certain countries around the world. I think we're at 22 or 23 countries now that are officially members of YSSP, meaning that their countries' governments pay fees and dues to be members. And so there's always kind of like this. So in other words, we're working with them in order to promote the YSSP because they would be the ones ultimately funding your experience. Okay, so what is the Young Scientist Summer Program? It is a full 3-month summer research program. So it starts June 1st and goes through the end of August. Each summer, we host about 50 international doctoral students, and you would be working with one of the YSSP scientists and mentor, and oftentimes there's a co-mentor or even a small team of mentors. And the program is open to advanced PhD students whose interests and most likely dissertation also correspond to YSSP's research programs, which I'll talk more about that when we get to that part. And really your goal that summer is to do research that leads to a chapter of your dissertation, a published article, something that has a deliverable at the end of that kind of research period. As I mentioned, that the selected candidates often can get funding for this experience through their national member organizations. There are also a few other grants that are available. If you have your own grant money or your own research team money, that also can be used in order to support your experience there. Keep in mind that the application deadline for this cycle is January 12th. I think it's midnight at Austrian time. And review of the application starts immediately. So we really do look at the applications that have arrived by that date. And yeah, the website I think will also be introduced a little bit later. So IIASA research, some of the terms that best describe it, I think, are international, interdisciplinary, independent. So IIASA is independent. It's not associated with any particular cause or government or even the United Nations. It has this, sitting in Vienna, it has this kind of global international independence, which is nice. With our 50 participants each year, that's usually between 20 and 25 different nationalities represented. So it's really highly international. And interdisciplinary, you'll see in just a second, is that we do research across a lot of different areas. IIASA is currently structured around 6 different research programs. And so the day-to-day activity is largely structured around these. The two on the far left, strategic initiatives is more of like what are the hot topics that we're looking at, and just so that you know that they are not accepting YSSPers for this year. So you can work with the scientists that are in those areas, but through one of the other programs. And economic frontiers, as you could guess, would be economics. But the other 4 programs, I guess, to get to is that they have subgroups called working groups, and those are the ones listed off of there. I will not read them all to you. I will go with the high level ones. So we have advancing systems analysis, which is really more of like a methodological group. So it's how are systems ideas and systems models able to use and inform on a different topics. So it's not on a specific topic, so to say, more agnostic on that. Biodiversity, natural resources, that I think is fairly obvious. Agriculture, water, ecosystem services, these topics are covered in that program. Energy, climate, and environment. IIASA has a very long history with energy modeling and climate modeling, and so those topics are covered there. And then population and just societies deals with the demographic projections that IIASA is famous for, as well as issues of migration and equity and those. So when you're looking for where you want to situate yourself, start by thinking your overall program, but then you'll want to dig down into the research groups and try to identify where your research might best overlap with that. Yeah, and so our taglines are like reducing footprints, enhancing resilience, and developing and applying system science to support transformations to sustainability. So the work is largely modeling based. We do not have laboratory facilities at all. People do data collection, but we don't expect that you'd be out in the field collecting data during the summer. So the experience is really in-house working on a model, working with could be conceptual model, a systems dynamic model, or working with the IIASA models. But that's what we do. So during the summer, the 3 months are going to go by very quickly. It is a long time. It's not like a 2-week summer school, but it's still quite packed. You have several chances to give presentations and practice giving presentations, including at the very beginning. We have a series of workshops that are on offer on a number of different topics. I should throw an AI on there now, shouldn't I? Which we did last summer. There's always seminars going on at the Institute. Some are arranged specifically for the YSSPer. Some are just other scientists that are coming on their way through IIASA for that period, and they're always open. It's a very open door kind of place. We have an IIASA Interaction Festival that will take place at the end of June, which is an event for the entire Institute to come together and share research and talk about ideas for future research. There's lots of games going on, systems analysis discussions, and so on. So yeah, it's quite busy. There's a lot of things that you can do. We actually don't expect you to do all of the things that we put on offer because you've got your work to get done, but you can select the ones that are both closest to what you do and hopefully something that's furthest from what you do, because that way you can expand and maybe participate in something you want otherwise. And of course, a big part of the summer is the ability to do networking. You immediately have 50 close friends in your network and colleagues from the other participants of your cohort. I'm sure Ben and Meirav could mention they've already been to conferences in the time since IIASA and run into YSSPers all over the place. So that's part. And there's a social program that helps support the networking. Horiger is an Austrian wine tavern. So we kind of kick things off with some of the Austrian culture, tours of Vienna, a weekend trip in the mountains, meeting the director, tours of the castle, lots of sports that go on. If there's things that you're interested in also to release energy that way, movie sessions, farewell banquet. And as I mentioned, you're a part of the IIASA alumni family. So that's another kind of perk of the program. So that's the introduction. That's the broad level, kind of like what we do at IIASA and what you could expect. And let me just say a few things about the application itself. And that is it really is designed for senior PhD students. So if you're just starting, I would recommend that you think about the program and maybe even start talking to people. But it's fine to put off a year or two. It's also a little complicated. Some PhD programs are only 3 years, some are 5 or 6 years. And so what does a senior PhD student even mean? But the idea that you're closer to the end than you are to the beginning, I think, is the general guidance I usually tell people. That you've completed your coursework so that you have the freedom to travel for 3 months without having to worry about some distractions there. Ideally, you've already submitted and even published papers and are familiar with the steps that it takes to do academic writing. So the keys really are finding a match with the IIASA mission and the IIASA research. So if you do work that is that is aligned with that, then that way when we're reviewing the applications, we'll be able to identify a mentor, or the mentors will be able to in fact, the mentors would be able to identify your project as something that they would be interested in working with. So the first task is really just to explore IIASA's research groups. The webpage has information about all the different projects and recent publications that are taking place in each of those. Each of the groups even has a special page dedicated to YSSP and what are the kinds of things that they are and have historically hosted within their programs. Another way to get that information is to review the past YSSP booklets, because each cohort, each year, will have a collection of the projects that took place during that year. Both, it's interesting to watch, perhaps. There's one booklet that we collect at the very beginning of the summer, which is based on your proposal and your intended project, and then we collect another one at the end of the summer. And occasionally the topics don't change at all, and the titles are exactly the same. But we understand that things evolve over the course of the research. But that gives you an idea of some of the projects that have been done in the last several years. And yeah, and then with that in mind, go ahead and draft your application and try to align it as best as possible. So yeah, so this is just reiterating the fact that it's really about the best fit with IIASA's research agenda and scientific mission when we're doing the application review. So having a well-chosen and clearly framed topic is important. Evidence that you understand the field that you're working in, which we assume you do, but still make that apparent that you're aware of the relevant literature. Having a well-defined research question or hypothesis. There's a little bit of a trap here in that we know that you want to be ambitious. You want to, impress the reviewers, but 3 months is a short amount of time. And so try to be realistic. Appropriate methodology, feasible methodology also shows that we understand that you know what you're doing and how to get it done. Do demonstrate that you already have your necessary data. Maybe you don't have it at the time in January that you are writing the application or submitting the application, but you could say, well, I'll be collecting data in March and April or whatever is the case. But you won't have time if you arrive on June 1st and you still need to be spending a month collecting data. The time will go too quickly. So yeah, and this is, I guess, the summary of all of that, the coherent, ambitious, and yet realistic within the scope of one summer. So that's why it's oftentimes like maybe one chapter out of your dissertation or one piece of a larger research topic that you have. So the application is actually fairly straightforward and short. We ask for, obviously, title, we abstract, the main research questions, the methods, the data that you'll be using, innovative aspects, and then something about expected results and risk for success. Each of those sections has it's either word count or character count limit. And so it's, the whole thing is in the end a couple of pages. It's not an onerous, but use the space wisely, right? Whenever you're given a character count, don't only write 3 sentences if we're giving you space for more, but don't just fill the space with nonsense words either. So and we have produced now a guidance document, which is online already attached with the application. Well, it's at the same page that you see the application. And this will go into more detail of kind of some of the best practices for those sections of the application, and also provide a checklist for when you're done and before you submit it that you can review again to see that you've matched those things. So yeah, so that's the overview of the program in the application. Of course, saying here now, looking forward to seeing you this summer. That would be awesome. We have questions later, but let me just see if there are any questions now about the application, since we're a few minutes ahead of schedule. Anybody want to either raise your hand? I guess raising hands is always best. I see some things in the chat as well, too.
Yes, if I may just come in, Brian, and
Sure.
everybody, I've shared some useful links and also the newest guidance document that we uploaded that Brian was referring to, as well as also the agenda for today. But I see Song has a question, please.
Hi, yeah, thank you. Thank you for your presentation. And So I am a psychologist, and my research focuses on promoting like curtailment behavior, which I think broadly fits under the energy, climate, and environment like sector. But when I look at the website, the example and description seem to kind of like emphasize more practical or hard science oriented work. So I was wondering if applicants are evaluated differently depending on the field they're working in, or like if certain type of research are prioritized
Right.
during the selection process.
Yeah, thanks. Great question. So, yeah, I mean, I mentioned modeling, but there's a lot of qualitative modeling that goes on at IIASA as well. So we're not looking for 50 physicists to come in and do kind of hard science modeling. In fact, I kind of think of IIASA as being a series of methodologists, mathematicians, but also natural scientists, and then also social scientists. And so there are economists, there are social scientists that are on staff and that work on those kinds of issues. I don't know about any psychiatrists or people directly in psychology, I should say, but yeah. So this there is a breadth there, right? So as I mentioned though, that your program would have to be attractive to somebody at IIASA that would have the capabilities and the competencies to be able to provide mentorship to you. And so I would suggest that as you're looking to, it sounds like you've done that, but maybe if there's some papers that you think are more aligned with what you're doing than others, like reach out to those authors of those papers, those IIASA scientists, and just kind of have that conversation. So we'll talk about that a little bit later, but there is the option, not just option, but the opportunity to reach out to somebody at IIASA and get that kind of preliminary feedback. You're the way that's also structured is that in addition to the YSSP team, which Kirsten and I are part of, and we would be working with you all summer, that each of the programs that I had mentioned earlier has a particular person who is volunteering to be the liaison between their programs and yourselves. And so they would be somebody also that could give you more kind of local knowledge of what they might be looking for within those programs. So those are also listed on the websites. So that might be somebody to start with. I hope that answered your questions. I see Constantino has a hand up also.
Yeah, to be fair, there is like another question in the chat that came in before me, if you want to address that.
You're unmuted, so go ahead.
So my question was mostly about like with the process of like the reviewing process. So once the application gets in, what happens? Like who gets the first review at IIASA?
Who gets the first review? Right. So, I mean, the first review is a technical review to make sure that the application has all the completed parts and that you're in a PhD program and that kind of initial screening. And then the next level of review would be the filter by the potential mentors. So there's a almost like a decentralized approach in terms of the again finding that fit with the mentor. So they would be recommending that, hey, this is an application that I'm interested in and it seems qualified. And then that goes to the next level, and then there's short lists and then shorter lists and final lists. So but it starts with finding somebody that's interested in working with your application, if that helps. So let's take one more and then we'll go ahead and move on. I see IIANF22's hand is up.
Brian, we also had a question in the chat from Olena, just so that maybe we take Olena and IIANF, and then we move on to Merev's presentation.
Sure. So the proposal by new, we don't know what your PhD research is on necessarily, right? So we would assume that it's within a body of work that you're already working on, right? So that's completely reasonable that you've got a larger PhD that you're working on that might have 3 or 4 chapters, papers, and then this would be a piece of that. So I think that's completely normal to have. So yes, IIANF22.
Yeah, hi, hello. I'm Ispa, and basically I'm from Oulu University, doing PhD in construction engineering and management. My question is, will if in case our applications get rejected, will we be getting a feedback on the reasons why it has been rejected, or and if in case we will be eligible for next round or something? Just a simple thing to ask. Thank you.
Right. So when the letters come out, there's just a letter that, we're sorry you have not been selected. That there's too many applications. We get hundreds of applications to at this point to be giving detailed feedback on every application. But you're absolutely eligible to apply the next year. And that would be a case where, again, if you've had any communication with anybody at IIASA already, you might be able to get some more information and work with somebody to apply again in the future. So we often have people that don't get in the first time and apply a second or even third time and still get in. So I mean, there was a question I see in the chat about India. I think that's a very specific question. Maybe we come back to that even offline or later. And quickly then the member countries, it's on the website. Boku is in Vienna, and Austria is a member, so that's fine. There's the list of all the member countries. And then one last one I see, Zhao has written about that. So I would suggest that, I mean, if there's a particular person that you're really excited about their research, you can always reach out to them and just try to make an introduction. I mean, you might not get a response. Now, that doesn't mean that they're not interested, but it's that as I mentioned, we get hundreds of applications. So I think you would another avenue then would be to reach out to this person who's the program representative of the YSSP. And so I mean, they are also mentors and scientists, but they might not be the one that you had identified, but they could help you with that. So it's if you have those questions, do feel free to reach out. Okay, I should stop sharing, and I want to then turn over. I think the best way really to learn about the program is to talk to some of the alumni. And so Meyrov was a participant in 2024, so now a year and a half ago. And Constantino, your hand is still up, by the way. I don't know if you have another question, but just to let you know. And
No, sorry.
Meyrov, you should be able, that's fine. Meyrov, you should be able to share screen. So she could talk a little bit about what her research was and her experience at YSSP.
And then I need to unmute myself. Hello, everyone. Very happy to be here. Very happy to see you. And the wonderful YSSA folks that I very much miss. My name is Marav Cohen. I'm based in Israel, in Haifa. I've completed my PhD, finally received my my stamp of approval just last week, so I'm still floating on that. I completed my PhD about 6 months ago. I'm very happy to be here with you and share my experiences. I think there's really, like Brian said, there's nothing better than just to have a face. And of course, I'll share my contact information at the end of this presentation in case you have any follow-up questions. You're welcome to reach out on LinkedIn or by email. So in the following 10 minutes or less that I have, I'll briefly introduce myself and my background, because I do think, especially following some of these questions, I think it's important that you see where I come from. I'll share a bit of the work I did at YSSP during the summer of 2024, very kind of high level, just kind of whooshing through it, just so you can get an idea and a feel of the type of work that I did. A little bit about my personal experience, and of course tips that I think are important for you as you apply. I'll try to pace myself a little bit because I know there are not native English speakers in the crowd. All right, so my professional route has not been a traditional academic one. I started my career as a corporate lawyer, doing contracting of renewable energy projects, okay? And then I kind of moved into environmental policy and although it was really unplanned, ended up doing a PhD in environmental studies in the School of Architecture and Town Planning. So you can see in ARC, I speak various languages in my academic and professional work. I spent a couple of years in Beijing. I'm very interested in environmental economics. And I'm not a hard modeler. I'm not I don't do exact science as such. As Brian mentioned, I'm one of those people at IIASA that did qualitative work. And so I'm going to show you what that type of qualitative work in modeling looks like. But I would just say right off the bat that although I was about 2.5 years into my PhD or 3 years into my PhD when I got to IIASA, a lot of my work was shaped by my experience at IIASA. So I was at a very important, in terms of the timing, I was at a very important pivotal time as I was working through things that I needed that type of mentorship. So it was very valuable for me to have the opportunity to really crowdsource so much knowledge and expertise and generosity, really, of all the people at IIASA during my time there. I chose to show you what my final briefing at the YSSP program looked like. It was very short, and I'll do it even shorter now. But you can see the date. This is how I presented at the end of the program. I studied the theory of resilience principles in social ecological systems research, asking what can we learn from the experience of COVID. And during the summer, I focused on my first case study in Taiwan. I'll show you in a bit, with, of course, the much appreciated support of my mentors at IIASA. Brian was one of them, and Elena Rubinskaya was a second. And I collaborated with a local group in Taiwan who helped me do the field research. So as Brian mentioned, there's no labs, but you can do qualitative field work remotely if you have to, or locally if you're interested in doing it, I suppose, in Austria. Just to make sure that we're talking about the same thing and you understand what I mean, resilience, in my working definition, means the capacity to cope with disturbances of a system, to cope with disturbances without losing most of its existing functionality. And while it's often studied with regard to a specific place or a time, we ask resilience of something to something, like rice fields in Thailand to flooding, for example. There's a growing body of research that aims to generalize things, and this was the focus of my research. So I was asking, what are these type of general attributes that strengthen or weaken a society's resilience in the face of an unknown or unpredictable crisis? And researchers have recognized some of these principles. They refer to either the structure or the composition of the system, to things that it has, to stores of its components, or to competencies of the system. Like learning or innovation. And we've identified, or I should say I should stop speaking, and we identified that COVID-19 was an opportunity to observe and compare how different systems cope with the same shock simultaneously, and how did these principles really affect the societal resilience of COVID-19 impacts. Okay, so you're already getting a sense of the type of qualitative work that I was planning to do. And in my PhD work, before coming to IIASA, I did a lot of the, laying the groundwork for it. But during the summer, I actually established the methodological foundation for a larger comparative study. And I worked on my first case study in Changhua region in Taiwan in collaboration with that local team. So remotely, that team helped me conduct one-on-one interviews that essentially created mental maps using mental modeler software to create these type of causal loop diagrams. And these were drawn together with each of the stakeholders to map out their experience during COVID. What were the impacts? How were they connected? What were the drivers? What were the mitigating factors? These are just a couple of examples to give you a sense of how different they were from one another. So that's why aggregating them was no simple business, and that's where things got fuzzy, quote unquote. So fuzzy cognitive mapping is a methodology in qualitative research, and it's on a spectrum of more qualitative, and some make it even more quantitative to quantify the connections and the links in the system. But essentially what it gives you is you can map it by consensus with a core of what is of high consensus in the group that you aggregating these maps, a core of high consensus all the way to what is raised by just a mere few in the fringe, in the kind of outskirts of the map. So this is a type of modeling that I learned to do during my time at IIASA. And this is what it looked like in Taiwan, just to kind of humor you. Okay, so the colors show you the level of consensus, and we excluded the red just to make it more manageable as we worked with people. In parallel, we collected information both on the impacts of COVID and about the characteristics of the place, with the idea to circle back to the group and really validate our findings, get their responses, and fill out the gaps. But what was even more important to me was the interaction among the local stakeholders as they shared the knowledge, they built relationships, and really built the capacity to think in systems. And this is where I really want to highlight systems. Some of you have asked about topics for YSSP. Systems thinking is the topic. If any of what you do focuses on understanding the interrelationships of the system rather than just identifying its components, I think this is really the program for you, because this is the emphasis of the program. So as I kind of processed the information, we were looking to see which of these principles really emerged from the collected narratives from all of the methods that I've shown you. How do they correspond with the COVID-19 impacts of that particular region, both the experienced ones and the official ones? And our initial observations following this network analysis of the fuzzy cognitive map was that there was a strong emphasis on a strong impact on tourism, which was a pillar of the local economy, so much so that it really highlighted the need for diversity. Here on the left, you see the first point is diversity of the business sector, for example.
Thereof,
And this,
2 minutes. 2
oh
minutes.
my God, 2 minutes. Okay, so this
Maybe
is the
jump to
type
the
of, you're
yeah.
right, you're right. I'm jumping. Thank you. I get excited about my research. All right, so you can get the sense of trying to identify the main impacts, the drivers, the central components of this type of analysis. And here I would say that YSSP came to me at a point where I felt like I needed more. I needed more expertise, and at a point where I needed guidance, and I wasn't even 100% sure what type of guidance I needed. And coming open and willing to discuss and share with as many people as you can, I can share that my experience at YSSP was, and you can also go to my testimonial on the website later. There's a reason why I'm here. Overall, a super positive experience. I'll say that right off the bat, because it was both professional and rigorous and stimulating, and systems thinking was exactly where the type of headspace I was at and what I needed. I felt less alone in that type of community. It was constantly intellectually stimulating. It was welcoming. It was warm. Social life was great. Network, it will give you as much as you're willing to receive, and as much as you're willing to put yourself out there to receive and make yourself available to receive and to give. Okay, so maybe that's kind of my main point. That there's a lot, and I mentioned here kind of funnily that I was very strongly motivated by a constant state of FOMO, a fear of missing out on all the wonders that, you know, this program has to offer, trying to kind of get as much as I can. It's the people that work at YSSA full-time and the YSSP cohort are very diverse. And it's only through these type of interactions, formal and informal, and you taking the opportunity to interact, that you really get the benefit. And also I would say that I really got with the mission of YSSA as an organization. The idea of using science as a means to kind of bridge gaps, especially me being based in Israel. I can tell you that one of my best friends at YSSA was Taha, who's Iranian, and some of the most wonderful moments that I recall involved our interaction. So I would just say that I really got with the mission, and I encourage all of you to do the same. In terms of just the application
I think
tips,
we need to move on though.
all
Mayroff.
right.
We
All
want to
right.
give Ben a chance too. So maybe it'll come up in the
You're right.
questions and answers.
Sure.
But,
Sounds good. I'll
all
stop
right.
sharing.
Thanks a lot, Mayroff.
Thanks so much.
Yeah, great. Thanks. So, great testimony. I'd forgotten you'd put the testimonial online as well too. So Ben, go ahead if you want to share your slides and tell your story.
Does everyone hear me and see my screen?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. I will
You
start.
can make it full screen if it's possible.
Okay.
There we go.
Good
Perfect.
afternoon and good evening, everyone. My name is Bindu. Many thanks to Brian and Kirsten and to all of you joining this webinar today. For me, the summer's YSSP was a wonderful journey. It's my pleasure to share my research, some application tips, and my experience from the program today. I'm a third-year PhD student at Beijing Normal University with a background in GIS and human geography. I took part in the 2024 Summer School for System Modeling, and this year I joined YSSP, spending 3 months at YSSA with the AFE group under BNA program. And at YSSA, my YSSP project is building a machine learning framework for sustainable carbon and nitrogen management in pan-European agriculture. Our research focused on one of the most pressing global challenges. How can we ensure food security while protecting ecosystem sustainability in a world with a growing population? Europe has a long history of cultivation and rich experience in cropland management. The overuse of chemical fertilizers has increased crop yields, but it also brings environmental problems like soil degradation and pollution. Compared with natural ecosystems, cropland has lost 30 to 40% of organic carbon. This is often accompanied by GHG emissions, nitrogen surplus, and water waste. So can we shift this trend? Yes. The European Green Deal advocates for climate-friendly and sustainable agriculture, but the key question is, can we design a region-specific management framework that both secure food production and rebuild soil health? One promising approach is to integrate carbon and nitrogen management together. Imagine this idea as a hydrogen. In this multi-dimensional space, we search for optimal solutions that increase crop yields, carbon sequestration, and improve water use efficiency and reduce nitrogen surplus, our four goals. And let's focus on the pan-European region. We firstly classify Europe into several agroecological zones with similar natural backgrounds. Then we built machine learning models using outputs from EPIC YSSA models to explore how climate, soil, and management jointly drive the four target variables. Finally, the trained models serve at the core of a multi-objective optimization framework to identify sustainable management strategies. The results of the XGBoost models show that soil organic carbon change, crop yield, and the nitrogen surplus are mainly influenced by management factors, while soil water is affected by climate and soil properties. Moreover, the degree of influence varies across regions. Next, we conducted the multi-objective optimization to provide carbon and nitrogen management recommendations for farmers and policymakers. Of course, challenges remain. For example, trade-offs among objectives, but through data-driven modeling, we make decision-making more transparent and create a universal framework that could be extended to other parts of the world. And what should you do if you want to apply to YSSP? First, browse the IIASA website for research areas that you are interested in, or talk with any former YSSPer you know. If you are not sure which supervisors best fit your topic, you can contact the program representatives for guidance and advice. In my case, my research focuses on agricultural sustainability, and I found a strong fit with the IIASA team in the AFE group under BINA program. This gave me a clear direction for my application. But my first YSSP application failed in 2024 because I hadn't contacted any supervisors in advance and my proposal wasn't targeted and good enough. Then I joined the system modeling summer school, learned a lot about IIASA's methods and models, and thought about how to connect them to my work. Before leaving IIASA, I met the IIASA team for a face-to-face conversation. Researchers at IIASA welcome this kind of exchange. I confirmed a collaboration with my mentors, Rostislav and Thomas, and we worked on my proposal together. After several revisions, I was fortunate to admitted to YSSP 2025. So my suggestion is that supervisor support and topic fit matter most. Another key point is to seize opportunities. Don't be afraid to try more. In addition, many countries offer funding for YSSP. For example, the National Natural Science Foundation of China fully supported my participation, and I've heard that other countries such as US, Korea, and France also offer support. We focus on our own projects during most of our 3 months and have weekly exchange with Brian and our own supervisors to discuss progress. You will get support on research ideas, data, and methods, whatever you want. You also have the chance to discuss your academic plans with the Dean Fabian. IIASA also organizes a lot of academic activities like seminars, lectures, and workshops. And if you are interested, you can even talk with a scholar about the potential of collaboration during lunch or coffee time. Beyond research, YSSP has great community activities like hikes organized by Brian and Fabian, code and method meetups, and pizza day. We also shared food from our home countries after work. We organized ice cream parties and we danced together at the intercultural festival. IIASA is charming. You will experience the exchange of cutting-edge academic ideas and enjoy friendships. Although we come from different countries and cultures, the warmth and kindness we share as humans really comes through. Thank you for your listening. I wish you success with your applications and a wonderful summer in Luxembourg. If you have any questions, feel free to contact me via email, LinkedIn, or WeChat. Thank you.
Thanks, Ben. That's great. And thanks both of you. I think that gives a sense of some of the research that's done there and that it's serious stuff, right? So these are all publishable kind of research projects. So yeah. So are there any MOs in the audience? Victor, I think, but you just walked in. Do you want to say anything about from the Austrian perspective or from your own advice on YSSP? Thanks for joining.
Yeah, hello everyone. So what is the discussion right now? So just in general, you mean, or?
Yeah, this is just a time slot to have introductions from the MO's perspective of how they interact with YSSA and funding for YSSP.
Okay. Yeah, well, just quickly from my side. So first of all, hello everyone. My name is Viktor Bruckmann. I'm the Austrian National Secretary for the member organization, which is the Academy of Sciences, where I'm based. And we are responsible basically to provide funding, also the stipend for our YSSPers. And I have to say I'm quite happy because from this year we stick to the IIASA's suggestion for funding, and we won't reduce the amount anymore. So for everyone who applies from the Austrian side, they will receive full funding regardless of their income during the YSSP, which was 5,100 euro per month for 2025.
For the summer, not per month.
For the summer, yeah, sorry. Yeah, for the summer, for 3 months. So that was 1,700 per month. So 5,100 for 3 months. And depending of the suggested number by IIASA, if it will remain the same, we will follow that number. In general, YSSP, I mean, we evaluate very high because it has been a very successful program, and our YSSPers are super happy about this opportunity, and there's nothing really negative to say at all, actually. So we really want to support it as much as we can, and it's a value for not every individual YSSPer, but also for the nation, for Austria, and for IIASA, because those YSSPers, they don't spend their time at IIASA and disappear afterwards. But what we see here is that they actually remain connected with the institute. And from that connection, there's a number of really great follow-up projects, follow-up activities, which are materialized afterwards. So a success from the start, and therefore, yeah, full go
Yeah,
from
great.
our side. That's it from my side. Thank you.
Perfect. Yeah, thank you, Victor. And Yael Bullis from Archimedes Center, I see, is also on the call. Kirsten tells me, would you like to say something?
Yes, so thank you very much, first of all, Kirsten and Fabian, for organizing this insightful webinar. My name is Yael Bullis, and I am from Archimedes Center, which is the Israeli Knowledge Center for Applied Systems Analysis. And as an MO country, we sustain a profound ties with YSSA, for which we are very grateful. And as the years before, we will support participants from Israel who will be accepted to the YSSP 2026 cycle. And you are welcome to contact us. I will share our details in the chat. Thank you so much.
Great, thanks. Let me try to summarize a couple of the questions in one answer about the application process. So the quality of the research is really the first thing that's going to get attention, right? So people are asking about how the applications are evaluated. So your demonstration of a timely, important research question that you are prepared to answer, right, and that you can make some progress on in these 3 months. So do you need to have the modeling experience? Yes, if you need to have it to do your research. I mean, you can't come to YSSA and spend the first 2 months learning about a modeling technique. That probably won't fly. As far as the timing of when you do this, in the end, if we have 2 applications and one person is just beginning their PhD and seems a little more junior, and the other one is more advanced and has published some papers, so it's not so much the hard and fast rule that you have to be exactly 2 years before your PhD on the date of your graduation, but it would be a stronger application for somebody that's closer to the end than somebody that's closer to the beginning, most things being equal. So think about the quality of research when you are preparing the application. I think that's the real ticket to being recognized and to having your application stand out. The supervisors, the mentors that we call mentors, they will volunteer to work with you. So it's not that you select them. I mean, you can reach out to people if you're interested in them, but recognize that the direction is that the potential mentors are reviewing the applications. And if they're excited by your research project and if it fits in what they are competent and willing to supervise, then they would make that indication. And then also, if there's other people that they know at IIASA that could be part of that team. So again, it's not something you need to worry about and how many mentors should I have. It comes from the IIASA side on that. So with that, let's turn it over to Kirsten, who will talk a little bit more about the application portal.
Hi. Hello, I hope you can hear me and see me. So welcome everybody also from my side. Lovely to see familiar faces and get to know some more colleagues. It would also be great if for our ensuing Q&A session later you turn on your camera so we can get to see and know you better. And yes, let me share my screen as well. I'm just also still letting people come into the meeting. So where is the screen that I wish to share? Here we go. Please let me know if you can see my screen. I am now briefly not in the meeting itself. Is it working? If somebody could give me, Brian, could you just confirm, please?
Yeah.
Wonderful. So if you Google YASA YSSP, this is the landing page that you will find. Basically, you can now see the webinar call of our webinar today, some background information, some of our past promotional videos that we made, and last year's webinar. And we are also recording today's session, and I will make sure to upload it here so that everybody who was not able to join today can also watch what was discussed. So you are, of course, invited to share the link. We kindly request you go to application information to the next subpage. And this really is our page that will hopefully answer all of your questions regarding how to apply, what it entails, and give you background information. So we're not going to go through it all word by word at the moment, but in general, to apply through the application portal, you will either click apply today here. To submit an application, click here, or on the left-hand side, you click on open calls. And we're also going to have a look at that in a moment. I want to outline to you some key documents that we have prepared for you to understand what the application will entail. The first is called the YSSP 2026 Application Guide. If you open it, you can download this copy. It outlines to you which information you will have to enter into the Onlyfy, that's the name, application portal to be able to complete your application. It is really important to understand that unfortunately, this system does not allow for you to save progress in your application. We thus highly recommend that you prepare your research proposal and all of the information, your CV, your motivation letter, list of publications, everything that you require offline. Have it ready when you want to register and log on to the system, that you then upload everything at once and then you submit, so that there are no errors. That is really our recommendation number one. Then we also kindly request that you have your CV, motivational letter, and list of publications put together in one single PDF file that you also upload to the system. So again, this document will outline everything that is required. It also, again, contains this table or list of all of the different YASA programs that exist on the left-hand side, as well as the corresponding research groups. And you will also find a link to the YSSP opportunities at YASA. So we'll always lead you to the page of that particular program so that you can see the detailed information that they have put online. So it's really up to you to a certain degree to do your homework and to find out where does your research fit and align within the greater context of YASA, and to then go ahead and contact somebody in that program or research group to have a first discussion and exchange of your research proposal, and to see if your YSSP is realistic and if you would fit. And we also recommend that you do this within the next 2 to 3 weeks at the very latest, so that you can move forward with your application before Christmas. In the application itself, you will have to explain and select a first choice research group at YSSP, and also the second choice, and again, justify why you believe that your research most fits into that area. And it will also be these research groups, which after the technical review of your eligibility, that you are enrolled in a PhD and have answered all the questions, they will be the first then to review your proposal and rank it. In terms of your research proposal, as Brian has also already explained, you need to give us the title, the abstract, the main research questions and objectives, your methods and approach. Do you already have any data, or are you in the process of obtaining it? If so, what are the requirements, as well as any other innovative aspects and expected results and risks for success? And lastly, regarding the references, you must include 2 references into your application, but no reference letter. So we want to know who are the references that we may contact if your application is of interest towards the end of January and February of next year. So we kindly request that you let your references know. Please prepare a letter and have it available and ready as of early January, so to speak, good to go, that if you are contacted by YSSP, you can send it. So I think that's also an important point to make. All right, going back to our website, the second document that I want to, again, emphasize, I also shared it already in our meeting chat, is this how to write a successful YSSP application document. This is new. We just put it together and uploaded it today to our website. We really recommend that you go through it and read through all the different parts of your applications. It will showcase examples of successful and unsuccessful titles, abstracts, etc., to go through this, but at the end of the document, this is also of interest. If I'm scrolling down, you will have a checklist, and this checklist is also very helpful when you offline put together your research proposal, maybe even before you contact YSSP in a first step. Have all of this information ready as far as you can, and then make contact to show that you have already thought about what you are developing. All right, good. And going back to our website, so again, the information is kind of repetitive on the website in the document, but we want to make sure to give you the whole picture. And then let's click on the open call. So if you click on open calls at the bottom, you will then see that the YSSP here, you click on YSSP 2026 application, and this will be the job description, so to speak. What is the YSSP about? Again, giving you the background information, these essential stipulations. Also, YSSP does not do laboratory research, so we don't have any on-site laboratory facilities. If this is something that you require, you are not eligible for the YSSP. We apologize. It is also important to note that you must be present at YSSP for 3 whole months during the summer, and you may only have 5 leave days within the 3 months. So we want to manage your expectations about what it means to be a part of the YSSP and the research that you will be conducting. Again, there have been questions in the chat, and I cannot see the chat right now. I apologize. You are eligible for funding from a YSSP member organization if you have the citizenship or if you are studying in that country. And sometimes there are also certain rules in place, such as for Austria, Victor's in the call, that Austria would fund Austrian citizens studying abroad, also within Austria, but Austria also funds foreign nationals studying at a university in Austria if they meet the criteria and are placed on the shortlist. Finland, for example, also does this. Certain other member states allow for this arrangement, Germany as well. However, for example, Korea or China only fund their nationals studying within their country. So it is important to read up on the member organizations and their rules for funding and to inform yourself. YSSP will always try, when you are put on the short list and when you are selected, to find avenues of funding for you. However, given the global situation, our day and age right now, we cannot emphasize enough that we really hope that all of you applying for this program will do your best to also secure funding from other sources. This could mean perhaps the travel expenses could be covered by your institution or university, or perhaps they would be able to fund a few months of your stay. So we really hope that if you have the opportunity to apply for a grant of some form, you will do that to try and support yourself to the best abilities that is possible. All right, and then lastly, when you again go on to this apply now, you click apply now, and it will open up the application portal. You will have to first register with your name and email address. Please use an email address that you actually check, that you maintain, and not a 10-minute mail or something else, so your real email address. And then you go in and you have to just fill out all of this information, as I had mentioned before. And at this point, when you go into the application portal, you will not be able to save your progress. I need to highlight this again. So please have everything ready by the time you are here to just input it and then also save. And another point I want to make is that when you enter your topic, PhD thesis, or any other information such as the abstract, etc., you have a character limitation attached to that. And unfortunately, the field in the application portal does not expand. We have complained about this. We have asked the technical services to support us in this, but no workaround has been found to date. So we want to apologize in advance for this inconvenience. Please copy and paste your response and check that everything is in there. That's very important. Yes, and then once you are done inputting all of the information, you you agree to our data protection. It is the normal EU standard data protection that you accept that for 1 year your data will be stored in the system and then it will be deleted. And afterwards you click send application. So from my side, I think that is it regarding the whole application process itself. I just also want to highlight that, as Brian had alluded to in his previous presentation, when you are on our website here under the YSSP, if you click on YSSP past cohorts and participants, you can click on the participants list from 2025. You will see all the names. You can also go back and click on bio sketches and project abstracts. This is the first document that Brian mentioned. When everybody starts the program, this is the first introduction that we receive. We also have our summer calendar of events in there from last year, in case you are curious to see what a YSSP summer would look like. And then as you move on, the proceedings from the final colloquium has evolved within 3 months from the beginning towards the end of the program. So perhaps also something you would like to have a look at, also the agenda from our final proceedings, but per YSSA program, you can find this information. All right, with that, I'm going to stop sharing my screen. And if there are any more questions, please don't hesitate to let us know.
Thanks, Kirsten. Yeah, excellent. Yeah, let me point out one other thing. Ben mentioned that she was also a participant in what's the IIASA summer modeling school, and that was actually started in 2024, and that's more of your traditional 2-week summer school. So if you're not able to participate in a full 3-month program, such as the YSSP this year, or maybe you are earlier in your PhD experience, that you could also consider applying for that. That call will open later after YSSP, but it's for 2 weeks, kind of like end of June or July, where there'll be and that's the traditional school where there's more intense lectures and coursework and that kind of thing. But so YSSA actually has both on offer as different opportunities. So are there any questions that anybody else still has that you would like to ask? I know we're 5 minutes over, but we can stick around a few more minutes if anybody wants to ask, or ask a question of one of the speakers or anything. Everyone seems okay.
If I may, sorry, just to highlight, as I've been receiving a few emails about this as well, if you already have a PhD diploma, you are not eligible to apply for the YSSP. This is meant for PhD candidates, students pursuing their PhD, and we've also had the question in the chat, I believe, a while ago about how far along you have to be in your PhD and how this is calculated. So ideally, you should be about 2 years from the end of your PhD by the time you apply for the program, right? So if you're just starting your PhD at the moment, you may apply, of course. Perhaps you will not be selected, and in that case, we would ask you to reapply in the future, maybe when you have also advanced more in your PhD thesis and the research that you are doing. For everybody who holds a PhD diploma, as Brian was also saying, you are welcome to apply to our summer schools or our postdoc career opportunities. Again, if you Google YIASA postdoc, you will find all the fellowship information available online. And we would recommend that you have a look also depending on your nationality and what's going on. So I just want to also mention this as our session today is not specifically on these topics, but just to let you know. And you are always welcome, of course, if you do already have a PhD, to inform your colleagues about the YSSP and let them know about this great opportunity. So thank you. And I'm seeing now that there are some comments in the chat.
And also a raised hand.
Oh, please, yes. Hannah?
Yes, thanks a lot. Maybe a stupid question, but I was wondering because I have 2 projects that I have in mind that might be fitting. Is it possible to hand in 2 research proposals, or is there only 1 per person?
Yeah, one per person.
Okay.
I don't think you'd have the ability to do both. So,
Okay. Yeah.
yeah, no, that's an interesting question. Somebody else is asking about the does my study background determine the groups to join? So, I mean, no, it's what you're going to work on. And so, like in Mayrov's case, she has a law degree, right? But her work was related to resilience, and there are folks like myself that were in the ASA group that were working on resilience. And so it's really what you want to do that summer and who is best equipped to be your mentor and to give you advice along the way. So focus the topic of what you're doing that summer would be more directing towards which group you're going to be wanting to align with. So, and Constantina.
Yeah, I was just wondering. So usually the MO that we're linked to is based on our academic affiliation, right? But we will still need to check whether, because my university is in the UK, which is a member state, but I'm an Italian
Right.
national, which is not a member state.
Right.
So
right.
in that case,
So,
should I assume that I have supposedly a member state, like a member organization?
Well, this is what Kirsten was mentioning. Unfortunately, there's not a uniform policy across member states. I mean, so in the past, UK has sponsored and funded non-UK citizens studying in the UK. But we really don't know at this time. It's a decision they make, kind of on funds available and other applications and so on. But yeah, I mean, we would look for you wherever you could, right? So if you happen to be a national of a member state but not studying there, we would go to that member state and say, hey, we've got this great application, but they happen to be studying somewhere else. Will you fund them? So we try to find all avenues to make the match.
So let's say like none of this will become an issue until the shortlist, basically.
Correct. At this point,
you.
it's about the quality of the program, of the application.
Exactly. And hence why we always emphasize anybody who applies, please go ahead and try to secure alternative funding just in case. It cannot harm, it cannot hurt, to be on the safe side. And of course, if you make it on the short list, then we will do our best to see what options we have. But there cannot be a guarantee, so to speak, because ultimately with the member organizations, it's also up to them who they then agree to fund according to their own rules and regulations.
Mayrov, go ahead.
Could I just make a quick comment to Hannah? I also had that problem when I first was about to submit, and I think a good idea would be, if you have 2 ideas, is when you're making the initial outreach to possible mentors, if it's the same mentor that might be interested in either one, and you can have a conversation about which is a better fit, to their interest and might be a better fit for YSSP. Or if it's one to this mentor and one to the other, you can try with one. And if there's no interest, you can try with a different mentor who might be interested in your other idea. So that's kind of how I would suggest to approach it.
Thanks.
And then one more question in the chat about, again, at the timing of finishing the PhD. So what we will check is that you are currently enrolled in a PhD program, and that if you finish, that autumn, that's fine. I mean, that just means that you're close to the end, and probably more mature in your proposal and your thinking and structuring of the research. But yeah, so that would be fine. We have people that defend their PhD as soon as YSSP ends. That's completely reasonable. Anything
Sorry,
else?
I may just come in. Yeah, I just remembered something that Victor also had mentioned when he spoke before, the YSSP funding. So currently, we recommend that the YSSP applicants have about 1,700 euros available per month for the living costs and food and travel, public transportation tickets. And then, so that would be 5,100 euros for 3 months. And in addition, also be able to pay your travel expenses. So traditionally, a member organization would pay for your living accommodation and also the round trip travel expenses. However, the level or the amount of money that you would receive may also vary between the member organizations. So IIASA makes this recommendation. We hope that all of our member organizations agree to this amount, but we cannot guarantee this either. So just also for you to know, if you are aiming for any type of alternative funding source, this is the amount that you should probably calculate. Thank you.
Victor has the advantage of the round trip travel from Boku to IIASA is not so much, right? But yeah, obviously it's more. Yeah, exactly. Coming from China or US could be more than if you're coming from Germany or Austria or something. So, okay, I don't see any other questions. We were 13 minutes over time, but I think this was hopefully useful for everybody. Pleasure meeting everybody, and look forward to seeing your applications and possibly seeing you at IIASA next summer. So thanks for joining, and take care.
Thank you very much also to our YSSP alumni and our member organizations for joining. And please don't hesitate to contact me if you need anything, glenn@iasa.ac.at, or you can also find me on the website. So look forward to hearing from you and, of course, to reading your proposals. Take care.